Hello, reader. Just wanted to talk through something that's on my mind, which is FIPP, Frontier IP. And it's an interesting one, this. Reason I'm kind of talking about it was I noticed that it had dropped uh, right the way down to, I've picked up some more this morning at 25.4p. This video, by the way, is not investment advice. It's just me, my ideas. Um, you make your own investment decisions, but I made mine this morning when I said, well, gosh, 25.4p, and I sort of ran my slide rule over it and revisited my articles because I was scratching my head. I thought, gosh, that doesn't uh, not so long ago they'd raised some more funds at 28p, so it's down 10%, down 10%. And I wrote this back in November, um, at around the time of, I think, that fundraise, because in that article I wrote about how that it was diluting. So it's going to go from 55 million shares to 66 million shares. The market cap would obviously correspondingly rise when you've got more shares worth 28p. Then that's what happens. The NAV was going to, well, that's the NAV per share was going to drop. So obviously it's dilution is what you're seeing there. But even after this dilution, I mean, we're still talking discount of over 60%. If you strip out the current assets, that is a discount of over 70%. And if you consider that some of the investments are debt investments, now this is a little bit more controversial in the sense that you may or may not be happy to do this, but if you are, because obviously debt comes ahead of equity. So if you think, well, I know I can at least get my money back out of the company I've invested in, which you may or may not, but you're less likely to be wiped out than the equity investors. In other words, if I'll just come up with an example, if one of the portfolio companies, let's say Pulsive, went bust, so Pulsive is this one here, Pulsive. So this is 24% of the NAV. They hold 17.9% of the company. Say that went bust, and they sold off the technology for 5 million quid, let's say. Well, if you've lent 5 million quid, or if let's say you've lent 3 million quid to Pulsive and other people, there's the tax man and other people that are ahead of you, but you're sort of that first 5 million quid, you're in line to get that. The people that have invested equity into Pulsive are behind you compared to debt investment. So you may or may not be happy to kind of make that assumption, but if you are, then you're actually buying it at or were buying it back in November at 84% discount. Now, the reason I sort of looked at it again today was I noticed it had dropped, and I um, reran the numbers, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is 90%, again, on that same assumption that debt, and this is sort of, obviously this is an estimate, because obviously we don't know, the last known numbers are these here from the year end, the 2024 year end report, and we kind of know that 3.1 million was raised, so that's kind of that fundraise there. So obviously it's 5.4 minus whatever cash they've spent between June and today, 6 months later. And of course, this is the last reported net assets, or sorry, the last reported fixed assets, and the last reported total assets, and the last reported net assets. Okay, so obviously these numbers can and will have changed. These are just, and as you can see, I've more or less just extrapolated them across, because I don't know I've got no way of knowing that the receivables have increased or decreased or anything like that. So all I'm doing here is I'm saying, well, considering the extra cash, that and everything else stays the same. Obviously, the cash is part of current assets, so that plus that equals to that. Anyway, just whilst I'm within this spreadsheet, it might be worth me telling you about it a little bit more. Is that stages 1 to 6 are these stages 1 to 6 that we see here. This was one that was sold this June 2023. This was Accenture. That was something they bought for. Invested £2,000 into and made I think it was 155 bagger maybe. They've kind of sold it at about 10 million, so quite a good return. But the last of it was sold before the year end. So this stage 6 is the listed IPO. Currently, there's nothing in the portfolio that's at cash break even, so at stage 5. As at June 2024. However, at December 2024, could some of these have moved from stage 4 to stage 5? I'd like to think that they're certainly on their way. I've over here got what I call the escape committee. So much of this 28.9 is this 24.4. So it's but this 24.4, this is again, it's the last reported NAV. And sorry, let me just qualify what I'm saying here. The FIPP don't actually tell us the makeup of the NAV. So when you see here, I've got my NAV figure here. You'll notice I've got a line in here called unknown values, 8.8 million. In other words, what I've done is I've kind of worked through annual reports and sort of fundraisers, different things to kind of get an approximate, what do I think that, what percentage do I think the holding is? And I've used a variety of methods to work out the fair value. And occasionally they will tell us, oh, the fair value is such and such. So then we know. But there's 8.8 million that I've not been able to assign, and I'm not going to just guess at it. I'm going to say, well, everything up here is worth this much, and then you can pretty much add on average 20-25% to kind of get to the NAV. Okay, so and I've got some ideas. I mean, you do get some clues that you would imagine that this one that's nearing its IPO, this one that's gone through a fundraise and is now working with a different robotics company in the US. There's a few there that you could imagine at Nandy that's working with Nesta. So there's a few, Impulsive working towards commercialization. So there's a few there that could be candidates. And the escape committee is essentially potentially they're going to IPO, potentially they're going to be a trade sale, and just generally they're sort of moving. Like technically, step 6 would be the step 6 would be the sort of escape point that once they're listed, then you can sell the listed company. But it's not to say that something at an earlier stage can't be sold. It's obviously more attractive, and you're going to get a better valuation for it once it is cash generative or indeed listed. Okay, so the nice thing about hopefully the nice thing that you saw here is that this FV is fair value plus or minus. So the fair value of stage 3 holdings dropped a little bit during the year to 2024, June 2024. But the stage 4s really progressed very, very well. They increased in fair value. But what you also see is this minus 2.5 here is this plus 2.5 here. In other words, 2.5 million of it moved from being stage 2, stage 3, which is kind of valued at the value of the IP, or valued at like the commercialization and comparables to sort of market. So in other words, things start here. So if I invest 1 million into something, then I say it's worth 1 million. Um, if I if that 1 million is sort of historic now, we can't use that forevermore, because just because I paid 1 million for something 10 years ago doesn't mean it's worth 1 million today. So there comes a point where they have to kind of stop using that. And I don't have a definitive on that, but it's probably something like 12 to 24 months after you invest that you've got to then say, well, rather than use the invested value, let's look at the value of the IP minus, and this is sorry, again, it's maybe not clear, minus the cost of the risk, which generally means that these stage twos, I mean, even though that is only 0.6, I mean, that could or probably is much higher than 0.6, but has been factored down, or looking at it from a DCF, discounted cash flow point of view, that there's something like a 20-30% discount applied to the DCF analysis. So yeah, I think this £1 million investment is going to generate £1 million a year for life. But because of the 20% discount, well, it's a pretty rubbish investment, because it's only going to generate, it's not going to generate mega millions. It's only going to generate this many million because of the discount factor. Okay, so it's obviously the game here is to move them from here to here, and then it adds value as they do so. So we've as I say, we've got these various holdings, and I thought, let's go and look for sort of news flow on these. This one particularly I'd like to call out today, which is this. So in my article in November, I talked about how they were prospectively going to release a 240 watt USB connector. So when I say USB connector, it's the actual USB port that sits inside, well, a wall socket, a laptop, um, or any, like in a hotel room, you get them now. But this 240 watts. I mean, I guess if you're not from the electronics industry, you're not necessarily going to know this, but the current technology, and it sort of talks about it here. The current technology, the best that current technologies can do, is deliver 140 watts, okay, from a single port. This means that monitors, laptops, small domestic appliances are unable to benefit from a common USB-C interface and fast charging protocol. So in other words, you can hook it in, but it will trickle charge, because you're only charging it at 140 watts at a time. I mean, I don't know anything about this notoriously noisy. I don't have any point of reference as to what that would be, but I presume that's like a little annoying whine that you're going to get from the charger, which is, yeah, I mean, if you're sat at your laptop and you've got like, you're probably not going to want to have that thing charging when you're sat at your laptop. I mean, I don't know what this notoriously noisy refers to, but anyway, it's also that, I mean, and obviously these things don't really. I suppose these things are difficult to gauge, but you pay your electricity and gas bill each month, and you're forking out several hundred, perhaps, maybe less, maybe more, of cost per month. But I've recently bought a heat pump dryer. My old dryer used to cook the clothes, quite literally cook the clothes, and you'd get them out, you'd be because it was so hot, because it was literally just boiling the clothes to get the water off them, whereas this new one kind of just sort of not as fast, but like slowly removing the water from them is not going to be as fast as boiling them for their within an inch of their lives, assuming that clothes have got lives. But like, does it at a fraction of the cost? Now I've got a smart meter, and I can see the difference already. Anyway, talking about that is that this is sort of the same sort of thing that whilst your laptop and 140 watts isn't, that's was it 35p a kilowatt, so it's 5p an hour or whatever to run 140 watts, which isn't a vast amount of, I suppose, cost, but that's a pound a day, that's 30 quid a month, that's 300 and something quid a year, if assuming you're leaving your laptop on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But what I'm saying is that, like, the amount of cost saving that this will deliver is actually quite impressive. And the technology breakthrough is that it can deliver 240 watts. Now, you obviously got watts, volts, and amps. So this is sort of like the size of the pipeline, whereas the electricity going down it is the, let me remember my electronics, is the volt, no, sorry, it's the amps. So it's the actual, you're not paying any more for the power, it's just you're delivering it faster. So this is a way that you can deliver 240 watts of power, and this is the Pulsive of the only technology that can do this today, and they released this back in November. So what it means is that you can charge things, potentially 5 times faster. Charge times reduced by up to 80%, smashing, smashing charge anxiety and driving a new paradigm. Um, I mean, joking aside, I mean, this sort of thing, like if you're charging your smartphone, for example, I don't know about you, but I mean, mine typically takes quite a few hours to recharge. It sort of, and sometimes it'll say, "Oh, I can see you. I'll charge myself so that I'm ready to be, 100% by the morning." I'm like, no, 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 I didn't want you to do that. I wanted it. I want you to be charged right now because I'm about to go out with you. Anyway, the benefit, and especially as the new iPhones, and I can't speak for the Android mob, but certainly the new iPhones have got fast charge capability. But if the socket that you're charging from is one of these old 140s, you're not going to find that it's charging particularly fast because it can't. You're limited by the socket, not just by the device. It's both sides of it. Anyway, so I'm quite excited about what this could mean for Pulsive. They've also got some exciting work around solar products. They say under development. It's been under development for a while, but if you can deliver that sort of thing into domestic power supply, um, and thinking about, and I talk about it in this article, that if you sort of consider just the value of solar, and and because we're talking about existing solar um, panels, like, I'm not saying Pulsive would be anything that you'd bolt on or change to the solar panel itself, but the converter, so they have micro I think they call them micro controllers, which is this here. Those do wear out and do need replacing. And what they are doing is converting the flow of power, which is direct current (DC), uh, which is what solar generates. It can only generate direct current, and then converts it into alternating current (AC), because AC is easier to transport, and that's basically what the power grid uses. And then it flows down the pipes, so to speak, to your smartphone, let's say, and then your smartphone is also direct current, so it turns it from AC to DC. So having Pulsive at both ends of that would mean that the amount of energy converted would be vastly higher, which obviously is going to improve the return on investment of solar. I mean, I'm not just talking about solar, wind, any form of power generation requires conversion into AC, from DC to AC. So its solar product could be massive, colossal. And it doesn't necessarily stop at solar either. So yeah, really excited about that. I mean, it's not the only one. There's also this Peeves with Reeves and support a farmer, not a star. Sorry, just I don't know where I come up with these things, but yeah, I kind of really liked the idea that DEFRA are really leaning into sorting out antimicrobial resistance. It's something I've personally worried about for many years. So the fact that rather than chucking a load of um, antibiotics at loads of farm animals, that why don't we work out how to vaccinate the animals to prevent the disease, which is nice, kinder for the animals, but also highly sensible for the human race, because if we breed antimicrobial resistance, which is basically what we are doing right now, then one day, and I shouldn't laugh because it's not a funny matter at all, it's pretty horrific, that one day we could end up with um, a sort of another COVID where something jumps from animal, zoonotically jumps from animal to human, and we've just got no way of dealing with it. And this is starting to happen already. I mean, it's not like it's something that I'm saying, oh, it might happen. It is happening. So I would, I'd say the vaccine group that are working on numerous different forms of animal disease is another one that I'm personally very excited about. Nandy as well. Now I sort of read into this a little bit because uh, these guys are also backed by Nesta, and who are Nesta? Well, Nesta are a UK National Lottery charity. So I think it was 200 million and then another 50 million. They've actually grown that 250 million into 350, 400 million. But they basically invest in things for social good, and one of the social goods that they're investing in is things that tackle obesity. And Nandy is a protein replacement, so it's like a corn foods type thing, where they're replacing the traditional fats that are used in the production of sausages and burgers, um, and replacing it with their own protein substitute, which is about half. You can see it here. There's a lot of overweight people in Britain. Don't know who they are. Never met them. Anyway, this Nandy protein cuts it by about half. Cuts the amount of fat by about half. So incredibly exciting, and obviously having this investor behind it is no bad thing. And so, yeah, another one I'm really excited about. And there's others. I mean, Diogen, basically, they got an investment into this, just 4%, but an investment into this for providing advice. So one of the advisors is Neil Crabb, the CEO of Frontier IP. So that's a new holding as well. So to summarize, obviously I don't want to sort of wax too lyrically, and there's others as well. I mean, the Cambridge Ramen, which is nothing to do with ramen that you eat. It's this and this are actually sort of electronics plays as well. We've talked about these. We've talked about and actually, yeah, let me talk about Elucid a little bit. Elucid is another holding that is working with Tops Tiles, that has a domestic tile that's been for sale for over 12 months, that has grown in sales by 20+% in 2024, uses recycled content to make tiles, which makes them less energy intensive. So it's about half the energy to make the tiles, and obviously tiles you have to heat up to hundreds of Celsius to to make the. That's why terracotta means cooked earth. So Lucid are moving into commercial tiles, are moving into floor tiles. Now, floor tiles are the bigger market than wall tiles, and that's the funny picture of this, whoever this might be, is sort of leaping from walls to floors was the and this mass floor tile has won different awards. Tops Tiles have a architect's arm, they have a commercial arm, Parkside and Pro Tilers, so those tiles are being sold into that. Lucid are planning an IPO, perhaps in 2025. We'll see. And so there's so many ideas and reasons why this could do well in 2025, that effectively this 89.9 89.8%, effectively you're paying 3.5 million for that sort of 33.2 at equity. So that's kind of where I'm deducting the debt investments out of that net asset value. I'm deducting, I'm ignoring the goodwill. Basically deducting out the current assets, deducting out the debt, which, and if you're not happy to do that, then you've got to consider, well, 77% is you're paying about 7.5 million quid for 33 million of stuff. But that 33 million of stuff is, quite, I think, some holdings that we could see some interesting movement and progress in 2025. So I kind of saw 25.4p and I thought this deserves a mention, I guess. But at the end of the day, I don't definitively know that these are going to do well. I don't have a magic crystal ball. All I know is I'm looking at the progress they've made, the news flow, looking at sort of how they prospectively are going to reach commercialization. And I guess the other way to look at it is you've only got to have kind of one or two of these to be another one of these, and even if they're not 160 bagger or whatever it was, that even if they're, I don't know, even just a triple bagger, I mean, it's paid, it's covered the cost of the shares. So you've only got to almost have sort of, nine out of 10 can fail, or in fact 97 out of 100 can fail, but if one of them triple bags, then you get your money back on the debt investments, then you've covered your 25.4p, was kind of how I was looking at it this morning. But that's just my opinion. As I say, I don't definitively know that these are going to knock the ball out, but it kind of feels like any one of these, and potentially several of them, could succeed. This one particularly seems tantalizingly close now with commercial, it reaching from stage 4 to stage 5. I mean, will it be as at December 2024 that happens? I can't say that I can't see any clear evidence for that, but could I see it happening stage 4 to stage 5 by June 25? I think that's to my mind, that's a reasonable assumption to be making with the looking at where they are in terms of their news flow. But as I say, I mean, these are also very close to commercialization. This one, I think, could prove to be, they're currently working with a food manufacturer, so they've got a first customer. If that first customer moves to kind of say, yeah, we're going to permanently use you, Nandy, that number there's going to not stay at 1 million. So I don't know, I kind of saw it all and I thought I feel that this could be worth a further look at least. Anyway, this is Oak Bloke. Um, just to call out, thank you again for everyone that's supporting Emmaus. We're now at really close to target. You can see here just a £505 away. So if you can fight, if you obviously if you've contributed, then I'm not saying do contribute again unless you've contributed a really small amount and sort of feel that you could do a bit more. But I mean, I'd say mainly that it's only about 87 people, and I've got close on 2,000 now that are subscribed and read my articles. There's about 1.1 million page reads. It was 1 million. It's now it's gone up 10% over the last few weeks. So if you're one of the, what would it be? I think we've got like 3 or 4%, 4% that have contributed and 96 that haven't. So if you're one of the 96, then please, just we're so close. I'd really love to smash this target, and this is a small charity. I mean, it's not, um, they don't sort of make oodles of money, and so by supporting them, just to sort of show you their last accounts, the if I can find the last accounts, they are, but it's about 6 million a year. So I mean, this is kind of getting on for 1% of their annual income, which is going to make a massive difference to them, and massive difference to the people they help. I mean, they help people for about, I worked out that they helped, I think it was 3,300 people on a 6 million of income. Is kind of, it sort of works out at a few £100 per person. So this is helping, like that translates into helping close on a dozen people, which is fantastic. So if you feel you can do something to help, please do. Just click this give now, and do all the just giving stuff to support that. Thank you so much to all these people, and that have that have helped. I really do appreciate it. It's it keeps me wanting to record videos and write articles, and and you can see here that there's some really generous gifts that are coming through from different people from all over the world as well. It blows me away that people in Australia or mainland Europe uh, also want to support essentially a British charity. So thank you, you know thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. So to those 87, thank you. To um, the remainders, please do help. Thank you, and thank you for watching this video. Hope that's been useful to you. Cheerio for now.